All right, greetings and salutations, everyone. My name is Andrew Kirchhoff, and welcome to our Thursday night live stream for Week 16 of the 2024 fantasy football season. We just saw the conclusion of the Denver Broncos taking on the Los Angeles Chargers. The Denver Broncos up 21-13 at halftime and absolutely fall apart as an organization, as a team, offensively, defensively, special teams, across the board falling apart until the very last moments of that game. And of course, the Chargers prevail and get themselves that much closer to, of course, a playoff berth in the first year of Harbaugh's reign as the head coach of this team. But nonetheless, over the course of the next hour, of course, we'll talk about what happened tonight in regards to some of these events. But, whatever happened tonight, it's behind us. We're looking forward to Sunday, or specifically looking forward to Saturday. Again, do not forget, this upcoming Saturday morning, there are football games. Specifically, I'll be here live streaming starting at 8 a.m. PST prior to the game, where we have the Texans taking on the Chiefs at 10 a.m. Saturday. And then, of course, I'll be here Sunday morning. But again, we'll be answering questions for the next hour or so. If you guys have any questions, whether it is via live chat and or super chat, make sure you include your scoring format. That is greatly appreciated. Thank you very much. I hope you guys are having a wonderful day. Of course, a very interesting Thursday game. For the sake of these quarterbacks, they played well. For the sake of these kickers, they played well. But Ladd McConkey, Cortland Sutton, the primary receiving options, didn't find overall upside because they weren't able to find the end zone. Neither of them were highly implicated within the overall matchups. It was more of a game of where it was just purely Gus Edwards having himself a monster performance in a week in which I would guarantee you probably nobody started him. And that's just the classic Thursday night event. Of course, both defenses, considering I think the total of this game based on Vegas's number was at 41. We had a lot more points than that today. These defenses completely getting fried across the board. Either way, hope you guys are doing well. Let's go ahead and let's begin by answering some questions here, shall we? All right, Ryan sends in a question, says, I'm down bad question, but Ty Johnson or Israel Abadakam. Okay, so between those two, Israel Abadakanda, I believe he used to be on the Jets. He was cut recently, and then recently, I think, also picked up by the 49ers. Patrick Taylor Jr. should be the starting running back going into this week. Now, again, for those of you who are not aware and potentially need some running back depth on your team going into this weekend, earlier today it was mentioned by Adam Schefter that Isaac Grendo, the starting running back of the 49ers as it currently stands, is most likely not going to play this week because of the hamstring. Therefore, the next man up is Patrick Taylor Jr. So I would pick him up and I would play him at a top 24 capacity this week as they take on the Miami Dolphins. Again, it is a tough matchup, but he should be implicated in being the 3-down back. Now, as for those two potential players, I would prefer to play Ty Johnson, who's coming off of incredible weeks of production as of late, and hopefully, besides the receiving utilization that he's very comfortable, obviously finding upside within, maybe he can get himself a couple rushing attempts late in that game in garbage time as they blow out the New England Patriots. Thank you, Ryan. Brian sends in a question. We go from Ryan to Brian now. Brian Rodriguez says, first time I fade you this year, Knicks over Love. Sorry, King, no problem. You're good, man. Listen, Knicks played well. At least he didn't turn over the ball. That was the good thing. He started off hot, though, which, again, that's not what I anticipated. I expected this game to be a defensive slugfest. But either way, I think Nick's, 2 touchdowns, 200 yards, got himself, I don't even know if he had a rushing upside. I hope he did. I know that he had it looked like on the television broadcast, it looked like a lateral there at the end. But yeah, definitely was not a lateral. In terms of his yardage on the ground, did he get any rushing yards? 25. Okay, that's good enough. We'll take it. It's like I guess it's getting there. It's close to a touchdown in terms of 4-point per passing touchdown league, but nonetheless, we're going there. But in regards to fading me, you just have to hope that, Jordan Love doesn't go for 4 passing touchdowns on Monday night against that sorry Saints defense, man. Thank you. All right, moving on. Marco sends in a question. Thank you, Marco. Says full PPR neighbors Mixon, Hubbard. Okay, so between those available options in a full PPR, I think conventional wisdom would tell you to play Mixon as of right now in my full PPR rankings on Patreon. Let me see where I have neighbors in comparison. As it currently stands, I have neighbors ranked. Yeah, I still have him below Mixon. So Mixon will be the play. Mixon, neighbors, Hubbard. That is the order which we go about it. And then your follow-up question was Bills defense or the Eagles defense. I'm going with the Bills. Again, I know many of you yesterday were asking about defensive rankings. So the top 7 defenses going into this week based on what I've gone ahead and put out on Patreon earlier today, for those of you who are wondering, okay? These are all defenses that I've still yet to play. My top 7 as of right now. Bills, Packers, Bengals, Falcons, Lions, Vikings, and Colts, okay? So again, many of those defenses specifically could be 4, if not 6 of them, could be available on your waiver wire. Again, Bills, Packers, Bengals, Falcons, Lions, Vikings, and Colts. if they're available this week, potentially pick them up and play them if you're preparing to, of course, stream a defense within the given matchup. Thank you. All right, let's see here. Medina sends in a question, says, in a full PPR, I started Ladd McConkey. Now I need to start 2 out of these 3, Garrett Wilson, Drake London, and DJ Moore. I believe DJ Moore has to start there. As for Drake London and Garrett Wilson, I think it could be a toss-up of a sort as to how you want to approach it. In a full PPR scoring format, let's see who I have ranked higher. As it currently stands, I have Drake London ahead of him. So I'd go with Drake and DJ Moore. But when I say I have Drake London ahead of him, I have him ahead by 1 singular rank. So again, if you wanted to play Garrett Wilson there because you were worried about the Michael Penix effect, I wouldn't even, be bothered by that. I think it's a solid play to go one way over the other, but DJ Moore has to start between those 3. Thank you. All right, let's see here. Rob Castle says, it's like they were avoiding McConkey. Yeah, McConkey had some pretty easy gashes over the middle of that defense on a consistent rate. Yeah, I mean, again, in a game in which they were down over 10 points at halftime, you would have thought, well, it wasn't 10 points at halftime. Was it 8 points at halftime? And then early in that second half, of course, a field goal was made to kind of extend the lead to 11 points. You would think down 10 points, you'd be looking in the direction of McConkey, but instead, that definitely was not the case as of today. The Chargers offense is very weird. They function in a capacity which you would think with a less effective running game outside of that one huge run, a couple rushing touchdowns, really, who's catching the ball? Who's making all these yardage up? But I mean, it's just a bunch of guys that are just random players. A couple Stone Smart plays, a couple Darius Davis plays, a couple receptions by Josh Palmer, and all of a sudden a couple penalties, you're in the red zone. It's weird how they function with the talent that they have. But hey, obviously good coaching takes you that far. Ben sends in a question, says, which quarterback should I start? Ben, where is your question though? Okay, Purdy, Stafford, or Mahomes. Between those 3, I'd prefer to play Purdy as of right now. That would be the current iteration of the quarterback order which I have it. I'd go Purdy 1, I'd go Stafford 2, I'd go Mahomes 3. As it currently stands, I have quarterback in tighter rankings. This is a thumbnail from the video posted earlier today. I have Purdy as the highest of the available. Thank you. Let's see here. Jesus sends in a question. Says, Tank or Chuba Hubbard, given game scripting and matchup flex. Understood. Yeah, Chuba Hubbard would be the preferred. Look, if there was no Travis Etienne in the backfield, and it would just be purely Tank Bigsby getting himself all the workload within that offense, I would probably lean in his direction. But considering there's always the possibility of a split between the two, if not, there's a possibility of Travis Etienne fully taking over the backfield, just like this most recent game. Considering that is always within the realm of possibility, we will lean in the direction of Chuba Hubbard, who has the backfield all to himself. Thank you. All right, let's see here. Tony Lopez in the chat says, full PPR. If all are healthy, do I go with Njoku, Laporta, or Strange? Highest upside is needed. Yeah, as of right now, assuming, let's say Njoku tomorrow gets a full participation in practice. At that point, I could very easily get to Sunday and have him ranked higher than Laporta. But if he's at any point limited, or they're saying, he's a game time decision, at that point, I'd just rather play Laporta within the given week. Thank you. Again, earlier today, we got a couple pieces of information regarding practice reports, which was quite promising for those of us who are definitely in need of these players. Specifically, first and foremost, Breece Hall is completely off the injury report. He is at a clear capacity. While Braylon Allen and Isaiah Davis have both been at limited participation, this should be a pretty solid week in terms of the overall usage of Breece Hall. Also, earlier today, another promising effect was Kenneth Walker getting himself a full participation of practice. This is the first time that it has occurred since, I think, about week 12, which is also very promising. So again, if we're going to be in a situation in which Kenneth Walker's back at a full capacity, obviously much needed within that offense. Not really, because of course Charbonnet has been dominating, but for those of us who need him on roster and don't have Charbonnet's efforts, hopefully that could be a quick plug-in to obviously get you that much closer to the fantasy championship. Outside of that, there have been some practice reports, like for example, David Njoku didn't practice today. I believe Kate Otten also didn't practice today. I'm sure there's other reports in terms of West Coast teams that practice later in the afternoon that I'm not privy to, but we'll keep an eye on that as we progress towards Sunday and the status of these players. But of course, slowly but surely getting more information that gives us some confidence regarding some players this week. Johnny38 says, who's the 1% that started Gus Edwards? I don't know, but I'm going to guess the 1% who started Gus Edwards. I'm not even joking. I'm going to guess those are teams that probably already got eliminated from the playoffs and stopped checking their lineups. That's what I'm going to guess. All right, let's see here. Dan in the chat says, should I pick up Patrick Taylor and start him over Tracy or Kendre Miller? I would. I'd prefer to play Patrick Taylor Jr. over both Tyrone Tracy and Kendre Miller this weekend. I know that Alvin Kamara, obviously another one of these players that we got a little bit more information regarding. Yesterday, they signed Clyde Edwards-Helaire off of the free agency wire. Additionally, they came out earlier today and they did say that Alvin Kamara's injury is a lot more kind of devastating than originally anticipated. So there's probably a chance in which Alvin Kamara is done for the season. If I had to guess, I'd say he probably is done for the remainder of the season. Another piece of information that came out earlier today, for those of you who are Detroit Lions fans and perhaps did not hear this, there's a possibility that David Montgomery is not out for the season and he is going to be rehabbing his knee injury and potentially return for the NFL playoffs. Quite exciting. I'm very glad that that's the case. Again, if it was a devastating season-ending injury, of course the chances for that Detroit Lions team to win the Super Bowl completely goes out the window in the absence of David Montgomery. He is the heart and soul of that running game, in my opinion. Thank you. All right, let's see here. Scrolling down, we had a question that came in from Sammy Munoz. Thank you, Sammy. Says start 3. We have A.J. Brown, Amon-Ra St. Brown, Evans, Jefferson, London, and T. Higgins. All right, so you've got a bunch of studs across the board. How do we go about this? I mean, ultimately, you just kind of have to start your studs depending on how the weather looks in that Seattle game. If it's going to be heavy rain without any stoppage and it's going to negatively affect Jefferson, at that point, I'd be very comfortable just going A.J. Brown, Amon-Ra, and Evans. If there's not going to be as heavy of a rain effect, at that point, I go Jefferson 1, Evans 2, Brown 3. Thank you. All right. Not St. Brown, by the way. It's A.J. Brown as the number 3 there. Thank you. Appreciate it. Coin Flip sends in a question. Thank you, Coin. Says flex 1 in a PPR. Romeo Doubs, McMillan, Kendre Miller, and Abdullah. Cool. In a full PPR, let me check where I have Kendre ranked in comparison to the bunch. So as it currently stands, I have Kendre ahead of him. Is he ahead of Dobbs, though? Yeah. Kendre's ahead of the entire group. So Kendre's 1, Dobbs is 2, McMillan's 3, Abdullah's 4. Thank you, CoinFlip. Appreciate it. All right. Lillian Lee sends in a question. Gillian Lee says, half PPR. I need 1 wide receiver and 1 flex. We have Higgins, Kupp, Devontae Smith. Okay, so out of all those available options, Higgins would be the wide receiver you play there. It says also have Brian Robinson Jr. available on for the flex. Thank you. So in a half PPR scoring front, it's pretty much just a matter of Brian Robinson versus Cooper Kupp in the flex. Let me see in a half PPR where I have Cooper Kupp comparatively as it currently stands. As it currently stands, Cooper Kupp is ranked higher. So the 2 that I would suggest you play are Higgins and Kupp going into this week, Lee. Thank you. Raghav sends in a question. Thank you, Raghav. Hope you're doing well. Says in a full PPR, 1 flex league, start or sit, we have Love versus Darnold. As of right now, I lean towards Love as the Darnold weather situation is quite concerning. Then you move on to running back. You have Achane, Connor, and Jacobs. Cool. The 1 and 2 would be Connor and Jacobs. You have Jamar, Kupp, Jacoby Myers. Jamar and Kupp would be the 1-2. You have Kittle and Jonnu. Great. You play Kittle there at tight end. You play Achane within your flex. And you play the Bills defense. And you're good to go there, Raghav. Thank you. Neil Patel sends in a question. Thank you, Neil. Says started Ladd over Rico and Patrick Taylor Jr. in the championship game. Favored by 21. I got Allen, Nico, Hill, Connor, Achane, Bowers left. Tell me I win. I mean, I think you got a really good shot. I mean, again, Connor and Achane, I think this week probably a piece could get you, especially if you play in a full PPR, would not surprise me if both go for at least 20 points. Of course, Josh Allen could very easily come out here, put up another 30 to 40 point game. It wouldn't surprise anybody. Nico Collins in that matchup, again, is the only receiving threat within the Texans offense that continues to get utilization. Jalen Waddle's trending towards not playing. Bowers, again, will have Aiden O'Connell back. That is another piece of information that was relayed earlier today, which is certainly kind of trending us in the right direction. Aiden O'Connell is expected to probably return and play this week, which only helps Jacoby Myers and, of course, Brock Bowers for fantasy purposes. You're in a pretty good spot there, Neil. All right, let's see here. We had a question that came in from Vinny Jordan. Thank you, Vinny. Says that I'm in a standard league. Kyron, Chuba, A.J. Brown, Kupp, Kincaid. I have Higgins, Kendre, Kraft, Downs as my pivoting options. What changes do you make in a 1 running back, 3 wide receiver, or 2 running backs, 2 wide receiver league? As it currently stands, if I was in your position, I'm playing Higgins over Kupp. That's my primary change there as of right now. Otherwise, outside of that, I don't make any swaps. Thank you, Vinny. Appreciate it. Homer J. Simpson sends in a question, says, do we know Patrick Taylor is the next man up Sunday? I mean, over the course of this entire season, when we have had Christian McCaffrey out, Patrick Taylor has always been the 3rd string running back. So now that Jordan Mason's out, Patrick Taylor, just like he has in the last 2 weeks, jumped up to the RB2. And then subsequently after, Garendo went down in that most recent game, if you guys remember, against the Chicago Bears. Patrick Taylor filled in the fourth quarter. So yes, without a doubt in our minds, Patrick Taylor is the next man up on Sunday. Unless they come out and specifically say that he's not playing or he's inactive, he is the next man up based on everything in terms of practice reports and in terms of snaps over the course of this entire season. Do not forget that the name that was mentioned earlier, Israel Abanikanda, he's a second-year running back, but he also was just recently signed from the Jets. He's not been on the organization. He's on the practice squad. He's not someone that would play. He would be someone that comes up and only is activated in the case of an injury where he is the emergency play at running back. Thank you. Eric sends in a question, says, "Hi, Andrew. I lost Alvin Kamara in a full PPR, but 1 point per 10 yards and reception, 1 point for 5 rushing yards, Kendre Miller or Tyrone Tracy." As of right now, between the two of them, considering, I think it just depends. I don't know if they're going to utilize Kendre Miller in the same sense in which they utilize Alvin Kamara within the receiving game. And considering that, I'd probably in a full PPR just rather have Tyrone Tracy within my lineup as it currently stands. Thank you. Janelle sends in a question, says, Higgins or Mixon? Higgins or Mixon? How do we want to go about this? I think I would prefer to play Higgins there, to be honest. Especially if it's a full PPR, I'd prefer that. Conventional wisdom would tell you to play Joe Mixon, considering, again, he could very easily go for 100 rushing yards and a rushing touchdown, have himself a monster game because he's Joe Mixon. He's done that for 70 to 80% of this season. So conventional wisdom will tell you to play Joe Mixon. As it currently stands in my full PPR rankings, technically I still have Mixon over Higgins by 2 spots. So I'm leaning towards that conventional wisdom. Thank you. All right, let's see here. Jacob F in the chat says, if Njoku is out, do I pick up Ferguson, Schultz, or Pitts? Pick your poison, brother. That's really what it is, because I don't think either of those 3 plays are solid. I don't think so. Pitts with a new quarterback, Pitts hasn't even been implicated to be a huge member of this offense. He is not a priority within the scheme. So again, Pitts is not really, he's just a forgotten about piece. Ferguson without Dak Prescott is not Ferguson. And Schultz, he's playing within an offense that can barely get the ball to Nico Collins, much less get him the ball. So as of right now, it's kind of pick your poison. If I had to pick, I'd be playing Ferguson there. Thank you. Let's see here. We continue on. Alexander in the chat says, hey, Andrew, hope all is well. I sat Herbert. Do I rock with Stafford? I also have Kupp, Rodgers, or Penix / Mac Jones, etc. As of right now, I'd go with Stafford against the Jets secondary. Again, with all the injuries that the Jets secondary have accrued over the course of this season, specifically as of late, it is looking like we're going to be in a situation in which they could be missing a couple of those members, which obviously would only benefit Matthew Stafford's efforts with this weekend. So we'll see how the practice reports kind of pan out, but that's the direction I'm leaning in. Let's see here. Okay, we take care of that. We're good to go. Richo, what's up, my man? Since full PPR, who should I start in my wide receiver 2 and flex? We have Jennings, Shakir, Devontae Smith, and who should I start at defense? Chiefs or Bengals? Thank you. Okay, so we got a lot of options here. So you have Jennings, Shakir, Devontae Smith. As it currently stands, if I'm looking for a wide receiver 2 out of the bunch, I would lean in the direction of Jennings between those 3 options. As for your defensive plays between the Chiefs and the Bengals, I would consider the Bengals to be the better option, considering they are taking on DTR, Dorian Thompson-Robinson, who in itself, even though they're going from Jameis to DTR, I would consider DTR to be just as much of a turnover machine based on how he has played over the course of the first 2, seasons of his NFL career. Thank you. Let's see here. Nick AM says full PPR, Ford or Miller. I'd rather play Kendre Miller there. I don't really trust any members of that. Again, from what we have seen earlier this season, when Jerome Ford has been like the clear and away RB1 of this offense in the absence of Nick Chubb, we have still seen other running backs in the mix, which does give us a little bit of concern regarding the potential of Ford, especially if they're going to be in a negative game script. Now, if he catches the ball 7 times, fantastic. He could be a great play, but outside of that kind of situation, I'm not really thinking that Jerome Ford is going to be that much of a high impact player in comparison to what Kendrick could potentially provide. Thank you. JPatch51 says Strange or Kincaid in half PPR. I prefer Strange. Again, as of right now, based on the video from earlier today, I have Strange 1 spot ahead of Kincaid. Thank you. Constantino says, what's up, my boy? In a full PPR, where are we ranking K9 now that he's off the injury report? Again, I'm still a little bit weary as to where I've moved him off to. So as it currently stands in a half PPR, he's sitting at RB 17. Now, earlier today, we did get an indication that, if I'm not mistaken, let me just confirm this right now. Zach Charbonnet was, okay, so he didn't participate on Wednesday's practice. He was limited on Thursday's practice. I would assume Charbonnet is going to be active, but considering, again, Kenneth Walker, full participation in practice earlier today, he should probably get the entire workload of opportunity going in his direction. So 17 is a pretty safe spot. He'd probably move up as we get closer to the probably Sunday slate. But yeah, I think in a top 20 capacity, top 18 at minimum, should be the case for a guy like Kenneth Walker. Thank you. Alexander says, happy holidays. Thank you, Alexander. Appreciate it. All right. Jorge Perez sends in a question. Thank you, Jorge. Says, hi, Andrew. I wrote a manifesto. Please help. Okay, let's see what you have here, Jorge. I wrote a manifesto. It says, full PPR. My team is Jalen Hurts. My running backs are Kyron, Chase Brown. My wide receivers are Mooney, Nakua, Devontae Smith. Flex consists of Tracy, Packers defense. We have Dicker. Bench is Dobbs, Kraft, Love, J-Mo. Also have Kamara and Garendo out. Yeah, that's rough, my man. I have a team myself that's in the second round of the playoffs that has Kamara and Garendo. They're both out. I'm going to have to start. Well, I also have Achane on that team, but I've picked up Patrick Taylor in order to kind of fill in for Garendo. I'd rather have Patrick Taylor over Kendre as of this week. But anyway, as for your team, says, should I hit the waivers and get Patrick Taylor or other RBs for my wide receiver and flex? Also, is Hollywood playable? I would not say that Hollywood Brown is playable. Again, in his first week back in the fantasy playoffs, I'm not willing to risk it at that capacity as of yet. I'd have to see. Honestly, I'm not going to play him for the remainder of the fantasy playoffs. I'd have to see a lot of consistency. Considering there are so many ebbs and flows from the receiving core of this offense, it's just very difficult to trust anybody blindly going into their first week within the offense as well. So not too interested in that scenario. But as for your team, again, Kyron and Chase Brown are your 1-2 combo. Nakua and Devontae Smith should be your wide receiver 1 and 2. As for your flex this week, if you could pick up Patrick Taylor and potentially play him over Tracy, I would say that that's a pretty good idea or potential plan of action if, in fact, you're able to make that move. Thank you. All right, we had a question that came in from Brandon DeClass, who says, in a full PPR, Neighbors, AJ, JJ, Chase, pick 3. Yeah, as it currently stands, Jamar Chase, Justin Jefferson, AJ Brown. Those are the 3 that I'm playing. If the weather in Seattle is a complete disaster rainstorm, and it potentially could affect Justin Jefferson negatively, and we have an indication as to how bad the weather is prior to the game, at that point you could pivot. But as of right now, I think it's just kind of in your best interest to just roll with your studs. Chase, JJ, AJ, just let them roll. Thank you. All right, Christian K sends in a question. Thank you, Christian. Says both full PPR questions. All right, very well. Thank you. Says pick one, Njoku, Strange, or Kincaid at tight end if all are healthy this week. If all are healthy, I'm rolling with Njoku. Again, if he gets a full practice participation by tomorrow, I am very comfortably going to roll with Njoku in that circumstance. In the event in which he is not in that case and he's completely out this week, then we pivot to playing Strange. Your next question says Keenan Allen, Waddle, Thielen, Addison, Debo, and Tillman. So there's multiple ways you can go about this. I'm going to assume that Waddle's going to be out. In the event in which he is out, I think the best available option for you at that point will be Keenan Allen. In the event in which Xavier Legette is out this weekend, which again, he has already been given the doubtful tag, which is again, we're trending in that direction. You could theoretically play Thielen ahead of Keenan Allen, but as of right now, I go Keenan Allen 1, I go Thielen 2. I leave Addison at 3, mainly because again, the weather in that game in Seattle could be very detrimental to the offense. Tillman's still in the concussion protocol. Debo is a complete disaster, and Waddle again expected to miss this week. Thank you. Moving on to a question from VLT, says, PPR, 2 flex options. We have Devontae, we have Zay, we have Charbonnet, we have Brees, Mark, and Puka, Thielen, Waddle, and Njoku, Marv. Okay. So that's one question. And then that's a second question. So if those are 2 different leagues and we need 2 flexes from each league, the first league in which you have Devontae Adams and Brees Hall, those are the 2 that play. Set, ready to go. As for the next question, it says Puka, Thielen, Waddle, Njoku, Marv, D-Hop, Ramondre. In that second league, Puka Nacua plays alongside of Thielen there. In the event in which you get a full healthy capacity of participation from Njoku tomorrow, I'd be willing to go Puka and Njoku there. And then your final question is Jalen McMillan, Madison, or Hollywood Brown. If it's a full PPR, I will take Jalen McMillan there out of the group. Thank you. All right, we scroll down to a question that comes in from Drippy Dario, who says in a full PPR set, this lineup is 2 running backs, 2 wide receivers, 1 tight end, and 1 flex. We have Cook, K9, we have Pollard, Pacheco, Dre. Okay, so we've got a lot of potential solid options in this circumstance. As to how we go about this, James Cook has to play, in my opinion. Pollard, again, hasn't practiced all week long. Pacheco's in a disaster situation. So your 2 running backs are Cook and K9 until further notice. As for your wide receivers, you have A.J. Brown, Neighbors. Cool. Those will be your 1 and 2. As for your flex between the available options, I would lean in the direction of JSN as of right now. In the event in which Pollard is active and healthy tomorrow, he would be the flex, but otherwise it is JSN as the pivoting option. And in Henry or Okonkwo, I'm not really interested in utilizing Okonkwo because Josh Wiley, the other tight end of the Tennessee Titans, has also gotten himself in the mix. There have been like 3 tight ends for the Tennessee Titans that caught a ball last week. So I'd just lean in the direction of Hunter Henry as it currently stands there. Drippy, thank you. Homer J. Simpson says, full PPR, flex 1, Najee or Strange? That's a really good question. Let me check where I have Brenton Strange ranked. Let's see here. Strange. As it currently stands, I do have Brenton Strange ranked higher than Najee Harris in a full PPR. So give me Brenton Strange there. Says, who's the better play this week? Madison or Abdullah? I'd prefer to play Madison because I don't expect the game script with Aiden O'Connell at quarterback to get so out of hand to where Abdullah's going to have to get utilized at a high capacity within the receiving game. So I would anticipate them to consistently run the ball as they have demonstrated over the course of the last 2 games in which they want to continue to do. So expect Madison to get himself his double-digit rushing attempt total and, of course, to be a more relevant option for fantasy purposes. So that's my suggestions there, Homer. Thank you. Benny sends in a question. Says, Kendra Ridley Strange, half PPR, tight end premium for the flex. As of right now, considering the tight end premium, I'm probably leaning in the direction of Brenton Strange there. Let me just check where I have Ridley in comparison, and then I'll be able to kind of make an adjustment based on my projection to lean you in the right direction. Where do I have Brenton Strange? Okay. So, again, I don't have any rankings for tight end premium. I either have half PPR or full PPR. Based on projections, in the case of a half PPR for wide receivers, full PPR for tight ends, I'll just take the Brenton Strange play there as it currently stands. Thank you. Ron T sends in a question. Says, Aaron Rodgers or Brock Purdy? Purdy recent play is concerning. Yeah, Purdy's recent play in heavy weather conditions has been concerning. I mentioned it earlier today when I talked about Brock Purdy. In the last 2 games in which he's played in the heavy snow against Buffalo and the heavy rain against the Los Angeles Rams, he has played terribly. But in the last 6 prior games in which he has been clear weather conditions, he's averaging 21.93 fantasy points per game in a 4-point per passing touchdown league. So he has been very good when the weather has not been an issue. This week they play against Miami in Florida. No weather conditions. He should be in a perfect position to succeed for us. Thank you. Aaron Breen sends in a question. Says, in a full PPR, sit 1, Bijan, Mixon, Brown, BTJ, Neighbors, and Jigba. Okay, so you got a lot of available options here. I'm going to assume the Brown that you're referring to is either Chase Brown or AJ Brown. Either one of the 2 of them have to start. So as of right now, your sitting option and your worst player of the bunch is Jackson Smith and Jigba. He is the one who takes the seat. Aaron, thank you. Orlando Gafford sends in a question. Thank you, Orlando. Says, pick two of the following in a 10-team full PPR: Lamb, Jennings, Jacoby, and BTJ. All right, cool. Of those available, the 2 best options are Lamb and BTJ. So, excuse me. It says, also struggling to for my second running back slot, choose one of Tracy, Patrick, Spears, Kendra, or Patrick. Okay, so I'm gonna assume that you meant Patrick Taylor when you mentioned Patrick. So this is the way that I'd go about it, Orlando. So again, I'm going to play Lamb and BTJ as your starting wide receivers. At your RB2 position, I would prefer to play Patrick Taylor Jr. Again, Guarendo's out. That's the direction I'm going in. But let's say, for example, Tony Pollard ends up missing this week and does not practice tomorrow, and Tyjae Spears is going to be the 3-down back of this offense. I'd prefer to play Spears there. So those are your contingencies. It's either Patrick Taylor or Tyjae Spears, depending on the status of Tony Pollard this weekend. Thank you. Luis Castillo sends out a question. Says, in a 10-team standard league, I have Detroit's defense. Do I drop them to pick up the Jags, Colts, or Atlanta? As it currently stands, of those defenses that you've mentioned, the Atlanta defense I have currently ranked the highest. It would go in the order of Atlanta 1, Colts 2, Jaguars 3. That's the order in which I have those defenses. So in regards to your specific defense, you have Detroit. Do I have Detroit ranked higher? Detroit is ranked 1 spot below Atlanta. So as it currently stands, I mentioned this earlier in the live stream. I'll reiterate this. Via my top 7 defenses for this week: Bills, Packers, Bengals, Falcons, Lions, Vikings, and Colts. So as of right now, I would technically prefer to play the Falcons defense this weekend in comparison to the Lions. But again, they're back-to-back ranked. Whoever gets the pick 6 pretty much is the difference maker as to who has the better week. Thank you. Carlos Douglas Jr. sends in a question. Says, in a full PPR, I'm starting George Kittle as my tight end. I need one for the flex: Jalen McMillan or Mark Andrews. I'd rather have McMillan there in a full PPR. My other flexes are Calvin Ridley and Jacoby Myers. Cool. Yeah, keep all 3 wide receivers going this week: Ridley, Myers, and McMillan. You're good to go there. Thank you. Jizzy sends in a question. Says, start 2 running backs, 2 wide receivers, and 1 flex. We have Puka, AJ Brown, BTJ, Amon-Ra, Kyron Mixon, and Bucky Irving. Fantastic. Okay, so my only question to you, Jizzy, is what is your scoring format? If you could do me a favor, type that in the live chat. That'd be greatly appreciated. And until then, we'll move on to Young Money. What's up, Young Money? Says Scary T got shut down by the Eagles. So him, Breece Hall, or Jalen McMillan? Yeah, I'd much rather. It depends on the format, I think. Ultimately, if we're playing in a standard league, I think I'd probably just lean towards Breece Hall. If it's a half PPR as it currently stands, let me see where I have Hall in comparison. In a half PPR, I'd also prefer Breece Hall. Only in a full PPR would I be playing Terry McLaurin there as it currently stands. So that's the direction I go in. Now, that being said, in a full PPR, let me look at the separation in which I have McLaurin in comparison to him. In a full PPR, where's Control Hall? Yeah, that's the only format in which I'd be preferring him. Because again, the inconsistency of receiving utilization that we have gotten from Hall over the course of the season has been enough to where it concerns me to where I'd rather just play McLaurin there. But if you're worried about McLaurin because of the most recent matchup, I don't mind the idea of playing Hall there. Again, I think they're both solid players within the given week. Thank you. All right, Jizzy says full PPR, cool. So of those available, 2 running backs, 2 wide receivers, and 1 flex. Puka Nacua, AJ Brown are your starting wide receivers. 1-2 combo, ready to go this week. As for your flex, at that point, I'm playing Amon-Ra St. Brown in your flex. And as for your 2 starting running backs, I'm going Kyron and Mixon. Thank you. All right, we have effectively caught up. We're good to go. Jacob F says PPR bench 1 out of Kenneth Walker, K9 is Kenneth Walker, JT, and JSN. Not sure about the rain. Yeah, as of right now, because of the rain, I'd probably lean away from JSN, assuming it's going to be more of a run-intense game. Because if that's going to be the case, then yes, K9 and JT. Otherwise, in the case in which it's the weather is not going to impact it, I would prefer to play Jonathan Taylor and JSN. Thank you. Jesse Vega in the chat says, next flex help, London, DJ Moore, or Bucky Irving PPR. I prefer to play DJ Moore there. Thank you. Dylan in the chat says, Moody or Butker starting Mahomes. As it currently stands, as for kicker rankings, I have Harrison Butker 1 spot ahead of Jake Moody. So I'll just take Butker there and just encapsulate all the points of what the Kansas City Chiefs provide this week. Thank you. Rowett says, Andrew, quick question. I have Henry as my RB1. If Kamara and Pollard are out, who do I play between Spears and Kendre Miller? I would prefer to play Spears there. And that's what I would suggest. You would play Spears within the given game. Thank you. And then it says, if Pollard plays, do I play Miller? If Pollard plays, yes, you would have to play Miller because you could not play Spears outright because, again, it's just a little bit sketchy. If Pollard doesn't leave the game with the injury last week, does Spears get as much workload? You know what I mean? So, yeah, I think you would have to. Thank you. All right, let's scroll down here. We had a couple more questions that were sent in. Some new faces, some new names. Let's see here. We had a question from Andy G who says, Patrick Taylor or Kendre Miller half PPR? I'd prefer to play Patrick Taylor this week. Thank you. Carlos Ruiz says, Kendre Miller or Tony Pollard? In the event in which Tony Pollard is active and gets a practice in by tomorrow, I prefer to play Pollard this weekend. Christine says, hey, Andrew, in a half PPR, 2 running backs, 2 wide receivers, and 1 flex. I have Rachaad White, Swift, Tracy, Jennings, JSN, Hopkins, Thielen, McMillan, and Garrett Wilson. Thank you. Okay, so of your available options, I think your best running back choices as it currently stands are Rachaad White and DeAndre Swift, considering the half PPR format. As for wide receivers, Jennings and JSN technically are your best wide receivers, and then Garrett Wilson will be in your flex. In the event in which the weather is pretty brutal in Seattle's game on Sunday, at that point, you'd be pivoting from JSN to Thielen. Thank you. Daryl Zhang says, hey, Andrew, in a half PPR, 2 flex, London, Addison, Charbonnet, Patrick Taylor, Kendre Miller, deciding between tight ends Hunter Henry and Brenton Strange. Yeah, I'll take Brenton Strange there. As for your 2 flex options in a half PPR, I'd lean in the direction of playing most likely Patrick Taylor in London. Those would be the 2 that I prefer. Gwen in the chat says half PPR, Pacheco, Spears, Patrick Taylor. As it currently stands, Patrick Taylor would be the priority number 1. In the event in which Pollard does not play this week, at that point, I'd be comfortable playing Spears ahead of him. But that's how I'd go about it. I'm not really too interested in playing Pacheco. I'd love for Pacheco to get himself a lot of workload utilization, specifically on the ground and, of course, within the receiving game. But obviously, that has not been present as of late, considering it's been more of a 50-50 split between him and Kareem Hunt as of late, which, again, neither of the 2 are benefiting. So Patrick Taylor would be the priority. In the event in which Pollard is out, Spears is your start. Thank you, Gwen. Thomas Dabney in the chat says full PPR, Terry McLaurin or Devontae Smith. As of right now, I'm going with Terry McLaurin there. Sam Darnold or Jaden Daniels? Again, I'm going Jaden Daniels. I might be the only one that's not afraid of the Eagles matchup. I might be an idiot for not being afraid of the Eagles matchup, but for some reason, it does not concern me. When we have players at the elite nature of which they currently stand, Jaden Daniels and Terry McLaurin, I would assume they'd step up to the task on hand and be able to deliver even against the defense such as the Philadelphia Eagles. But hey, that could be my mistake. I may be overlooking something. Again, I'm going in that direction. By Sunday morning, you'll see it as the same once the rankings are up on screen. Thank you. Levon in the chat says, Myers or Addison? As of right now, considering Aiden O'Connell is most likely going to play, I'm leaning towards Myers there. And Mahomes or Goff, I prefer to play Goff. Thank you. KGYM says, Bengals defense or Colts? I prefer the Bengals. Thank you. Homer J. Simpson sends in a follow-up, says, LA dog, Chicago dog or Seattle dog? I'm going to be honest, I've never had a Chicago or Seattle dog. So I will just, I'll default to the LA. Thank you. Primetime Dime 818 says, Tracy or Kendre? Half PPR. As of right now, I'd lean towards Kendre. Thank you. Jorge Perez sends in a follow-up, says full PPR. Should I be worried about Mooney? Yes, you would. I would be worried about Mooney. Again, I've got Mooney ranked so low this week that he's never going to be able to see my lineup. It says other options are Dobbs and JMO. I would prefer to play either of the two. If I was going to pick one of the two, I prefer to play JMO there, considering his consistency of utilization as of late and the touchdown upside he provides. It says, and I'd also even feel more comfortable playing Romeo Dobbs at that point if that's something that you'd want to explore as well. It says, who should I drop to pick up? Patrick Taylor or Tyjae Spears is available. My bench consists of Dobbs, Garendo, JMO, Kraft, and Love. I mean, as of right now, if you're not going to be utilizing, so you would wait for Garendo to go to IR and you put him in your IR spot to open up a spot there. But in the event in which you can't do that, I'm dropping him because at this point, I got to win to get to the next round. Or if this is your final round, you got to win, bring home the chip. Otherwise, Kraft is probably the guy that gets axed, assuming you have a startable tight end that every week is going to be your auto start. Thank you. Bob France sends in a question. Thank you, Bob. Appreciate it. Says, pick one in the flex full PPR. We have Ertz, Strange, MVS, Tim Patrick. So Ertz was not in today's tight end rankings video, primarily because I don't know his status. Obviously, he sustained a concussion in this most recent game last week against the New Orleans Saints. There is a possibility in which he could play this week, but we're not certain because, again, concussion protocol typically takes about, a week of rest, including missing one singular game on average in order for you to then, come back from it. But even if Ertz does end up playing this week, of the available options you've mentioned, I prefer to play Brenton Strange in a full PPR there, Bob. Thank you. All right, let's see. Flo in the chat says, Bengals defense should be an auto start against Dorian Thompson-Robinson. You're absolutely correct, Flo. I agree. Cameron Spicer sends in a question. Says, I need a quarterback for this week. Who do I start? From May, Smith, Wilson, Williams, Penix, Stroud, Rush, Jones, and O'Connell. Okay, so we've got the entire bench waiver wire squad available to us. Of those available names, the highest ranked player I have of those available is Michael Penix and Caleb Williams. Those are the two that I have ranked the highest. So I probably play Penix there, mainly because I'm crazy, but that's the direction that I would go with. Is it too crazy for the fantasy playoffs? Probably. I think it's getting a little bit too cute. So at that point, the best options after Caleb Williams would be CJ Stroud, technically. After Penix, Stroud, CJ. So Penix, Williams, Stroud. That's the direction and the current order I have it on Patreon. Thank you. Okay, we took care of that. Christian K says, Najee scares me this week with negative game script and the Ravens run defense. Should I consider Patrick Taylor or Bigsby? Yes, as it currently stands, I have Patrick Taylor ranked higher, so I would consider him as a better option this week. Thank you. Let's see here. Corey Miller says, Kendre Miller, Dobbs, Patrick Taylor, or London in a PPR. In a PPR scoring format of the available, I probably end up going with London there as it currently stands. It's either London or Patrick Taylor, but I'd lean in a full PPR towards probably playing London. Thank you. Rick says, full PPR, Breece Hall, Wilson, Shakir, Judy, pick 3. As it currently stands, I'd probably say it's safest to just bench Judy this week. If you felt comfortable playing Judy, even with Dorian Thompson-Robinson, the guy that you would have to bench in order to make it happen would be Wilson. Otherwise, I'm not benching Breece Hall or Shakir this week. Thank you. Komodo Shark says, CJ or Caleb? As of right now, I have Caleb one spot ahead of CJ Stroud. They're back-to-back in my rankings. May is available on the waivers. May in comparison to the two, let me see. Okay, so I have it at, okay, so Penix, Williams, Stroud, Geno, O'Connell, Mac Jones, Rush, Mason, Drake May. I have Drake May so far below the rest of the group that I'm not even willing to entertain it as a potential idea. But yeah, CJ or Caleb, I prefer Caleb there. Bob French says, Ertz practice today, a non-contact jersey. Again, even if he practices in a non-contact jersey, it doesn't mean that he's going to clear concussion protocol. Remember, the last 3 weeks, the exact same thing has happened with Cedric Tillman of the wide receiver of the Cleveland Browns. He has been in a non-contact jersey over the course of the last 3 weeks, and he has yet to clear concussion protocol. So again, there's still a possibility where he does not end up playing, but I hope for the sake of Jaden Daniels' upside, he does. Thank you. Corey Miller says Penix or Goff. I got to play Goff there. At that point, we're not getting that cute. Kamikaze says, which defense should I grab for week 17 available? Are the Eagles, Saints, Jaguars, and Bucks? Are the Dolphins available? That's my primary question. Thank you. If you can answer that, that'd be great. Otherwise, I'll pick one of the ones that you've mentioned. J Patch says, hey, Andrew. How are we feeling about my lineup? I have Daniels, Barkley, Cook, Connor, Nakua, Jennings, Strange, Tucker, Falcons defense. I feel great about it. The only thing that I believe is a problem is rostering Justin Tucker. I think you got to learn from the lessons that we have been provided over the course of the season. When a kicker's leg is gone, it's gone. And in the case of Justin Tucker, it is unfortunately gone. He's got the yips. I would be looking elsewhere at kicker. I'm sure there are many of other options that can get you double-digit points in comparison to him. Otherwise, the rest of your lineup looks fantastic for this week, as is currently set. Brian Beasley says BTJ or Addison. BTJ has to play. Let's see here. How high are you on on Patrick Taylor Jr.? As it currently stands in a half PPR scoring format. So like if we were going to utilize Tuesday's running back rankings as like a bookmark as to where we would kind of line him up, he would, assuming you take Garendo out of the equation, as it currently stands, I have Patrick Taylor at number 21. So he is, because I've moved a lot of the rankings around. So I've moved up Breece Hall. I've moved up Kenneth Walker. I've moved up a couple of the other alternative options. He sits at 21. So I'm going to play him as a top 24 running back this week in the absence of Garendo. Thank you. Let's see here. Damian Allen says, yeah, I need a temp check on Patrick Taylor. Not sure if I should be throwing him in over some of my decent wide receivers. Depends on what wide receivers you have, Damian. Let me know what you have in the chat, and I'd be more than happy to help you out there, man. DeQuan says Penix or Caleb Williams. I have Penix ranked higher. I'm not even joking. Let's see. Again, they play the Giants, man. It's such an easy matchup. I would imagine that even he could find himself a successful week here. Dolly sends in a question, says full PPR, flex, Breece Hall, Najee Harris, Brian Thomas Jr., Shakir. Out of those available options, Dolly, you should play Brian Thomas Jr. Thank you. Sean sends in a question. Sean, thank you very much. Sean says, start three. We have Ford, Tracy, Taylor, Kendre, Tank, and White. Okay, so Rashad White has to play. I also believe, actually, you know what? Sean, do me a favor. What is your scoring format? If you can tell me that, that would be incredibly helpful in terms of the scenario. Because Tyron Tracy does get himself a little bit more upside, and so does someone like potentially Kendre Miller, if there's a PPR aspect to it in comparison to a half or standard. So yeah, let me know. Damian Allen says, Calvin Ridley, Devontae Smith is who I have. I'd rather play both those wide receivers. At that point, I'd rather play both those guys. Yeah. Sean says half PPR. Cool. Thank you, Sean. So of those available in a half PPR scoring format, the three that I would prefer to play is White, Taylor, and probably Bigsby. That's the way that I'd go about it, Sean, in a half PPR. Thank you. Walt in the chat says, in a standard 16-team league, I lost Kamara. Pick one running back out of Kendre Miller, Patrick Taylor, Tim Patrick, Tillman, Ray Davis. Cool. Yeah, I'll take Patrick Taylor there very comfortably. Thank you. Again, guys, it's purely just a matter of, we have seen it over the course of the last 5 years. Whoever plays running back and is the primary starting running back of the 49ers has inherent value because of the scheme itself. They don't have to be the most talented running back. Whether it has been, guys, I mean, literally, it could be Garendo, it could be Jordan Mason, it could be Elijah Mitchell. There have been many of running backs, Jeff Wilson Jr., Raheem Mostert. Many of running backs have succeeded far beyond their means within this backfield. Patrick Taylor is just going to be another one of these guys. Gerardo Chavez says, didn't start Herbert. Seen your video today, and you had Richardson higher than Herbert. Yeah, then we just continue with Richardson there. Thank you. Let's see. Rico says, in a full PPR, I need to flex Shakir or Devontae Smith. As of right now, it's probably in your best interest to just continue with the consistency of what Shakir has provided as of the course of the season. Thank you. Rowett says, hey, Andrew, one more follow-up. Do you like Tracy at all this week? Because I was still planning to start Spears over Miller and Miller over Tracy. I mean, as of right now, if Pollard is playing, I'm still going to play Tracy over Spears. That's the way I go about it. Excuse me. Thank you. Somebody asked Garendo or Addison. If there's rain implicated with Addison, I don't want to play Addison over Patrick Taylor. If it's Patrick Taylor or Addison with Garendo out, I just take the Taylor play at that point. Jordan says, I'm an Niners fan. I'm not sure if I'm buying the confidence of Patrick Taylor. Abadakanda looked talented, brother. If you're a 49ers fan, it has nothing to do with 49ers fandom. First of all, Abadakanda has been a fourth string running back for the last 2 years. That's just a given. That's just a fact. He's a practice squad waiver wire pickup in the NFL. He's not a starter. You guys are joking, right? Listen. This is the reality of the situation. I'm here to give you my suggestion. You don't have to believe me. You don't have to follow my suggestion. I am just here with all the years of knowledge and preparation and research, providing you my opinion. If you want to go with it, you can. If you don't, there's no problem. Again, we've done this in the past. People didn't buy the idea of plays in the past, and it's burned them. And I'm not saying this is going to be one of them, but I'd like to be pretty confident in the idea that any 49ers running back, specifically that is going to have the full reign of 20 potential plus touches, is probably going to be fantasy relevant within their given week. Pollard or Kendre Miller. If Pollard's active, he has to play there, Mike. Tone says full PPR, Patrick Taylor or Ford. I'm playing Patrick Taylor. I cannot play Ford anymore. As soon as they bench Jameis Winston, almost the entire running game was excluded going forward. Kamikaze says, hey, Andrew, the Dolphins are not available. I'm currently have the Packers on roster. All right, got it. Let me just see what the rest of your question is, Kamikaze, just to see what else you had available. So if so you have the Packers available on roster. Which defense? Eagles, Saints, Jaguars, or Buccaneers? Let me look at Week 17's schedule really quickly, and then I'll compare the available. Okay, so you have the Eagles, Saints, Jaguars, Bucks. Eagles play against the Dallas Cowboys. Bucks plays against the Carolina Panthers. Okay, Jaguars play against the Titans. And you have the final option being the Saints defense, who would be playing against the Raiders. Of the available, I would probably play the Eagles next week. Thank you. Eagles would be my preferred. Appreciate it. All right, scrolling back down here. Smile says, sup man, full PPR, Kyle Pitts or Strange? I'd have to play Strange there. I cannot play Kyle Pitts. I'd be forfeiting the league at that point if I'm playing Pitts. Let's hear. Daquan sends in a question, says Cook, Bucky, Tracy, Miller, Spears, PPR, 2 running backs, 1 flex. Cook has to play. Bucky has to play. And your third decision is going to be based purely on Pollard's status. If Pollard plays, Miller is your third running back. If Pollard is out, you're probably going Spears. Actually, no, you are going Spears. Thank you. Let's see here. Witcher says, am I hosed? I sat Herbert for Richardson. I don't think so. I mean, again, Richardson taking on Tennessee's defense should probably be a lot of points. Again, the Tennessee Titans defense over the course of the season, secondary-wise, I mean, they have been battered with injuries, and that's why they've struggled so mightily over the course of this entire season. And again, the offense and the overall upside that is provided by Anthony Richardson really isn't his upside through the air. It's what he does on the ground. I mean, this most recent week scoring 10.6 fantasy points just off of the ground alone. If he's able to get himself anywhere within that range, which again, he probably will, if not find further upside with another rushing touchdown, again, he's going to be in a pretty solid position to succeed this week. Would you play Garendo if he's active? He's not going to be, but even if he is, I mean, technically, yes, I would, but it would be at a significantly lesser option because he has a hamstring injury. The potential re-aggravation of a hamstring injury, I would assume, based on my knowledge regarding it actually depends on what kind of level of strain it is, but if he does play, I would probably have him ranked, but lower than where I had him ranked on Tuesday, because again, I'd be worried about the re-injury rate. Thank you. All right, let me scroll back up here. We took care of that question. I see Damo Mo sent in a question. I completely missed it. Damo, my bad. Does McLaurin get shut down versus Philadelphia in a divisional chat? ? Also, should I run with Will Reichard as my kicker in the rain? I would look to find a pivoting option from Will Reichard, and as of right now, I do not believe that McLaurin will be shut down. Just in the same way in which Cooper Kupp, Puka Nacua, Adam Thielen all went for a pretty good share of yardage against that secondary and all found success, I would assume that he would continue as a potential player that with his, opportunity share that he has seen as of late, I would assume that continues. I don't expect them to, I mean, again, last time out against the Eagles, I will admit, I watched that game back. They were triple covering him at times, but I would assume that Cliff Kingsbury will go about his business a little bit differently this week in order to make sure that Terry McLaurin is actively a member of the kind of mix of this offense, whether or not they are directly just designing plays to send him the ball in the passing game or quite literally handing it off to him. They'll get him far more in the mix. So I'm not too worried about his current status. Again, I don't have him in my top 12 wide receiver rankings, but I still expect him to be a top 24 player. Oh, right. Let's see here. Damian Allen says, y'all starting Mahomes or Anthony Reed? Okay, so that's a different question. Kevin Edmonds in the chat says, Darnold or Goff? I'd prefer to play Goff currently because of the Darnold weather situation. Also, Judy, Metcalf, or McMillan. As of right now, I'd still be comfortable going with Judy. Metcalf gets no opportunity. He's in a rain game, and McMillan is 100% touchdown dependent. I will take the idea of the target share that Judy has, been implicated for within this offense as of late, whether it's been with Jameis or with DTR, doesn't matter. He's getting himself 25 to 30% of the target share, so I'm comfortable there. Thank you. Komodo says sit one, Cup, Evans, JSN, Terry, or Jennings. Of those available, JSN sits because of the weather. Nick AM says Miller or Patrick Taylor. I'd rather play Patrick Taylor 10 times out of 10. Again, that Green Bay Packers defense is going to be a handful. Let's not forget that. All right, Jorge Gonzalez says, okay, he's talking to somebody else. Never mind. Vita in the chat says, start two, Cup, Neighbors, or Aaron Jones. Very good question. As it currently stands, I'd probably go with Neighbors and Aaron Jones there. I Spy sends in a question, says, PPR, pick two. We have Jennings, we have DK, we have Flowers. Also, okay, so between those available options, Flowers and Jennings are my two highest ranked. As for Goff or Love, as it currently stands, assuming the weather on Monday is not going to be an issue, it would be Love. Thank you. Carson Best says full PPR, Judy, Thielen, or Patrick Taylor in the flex. In a full PPR, I'd probably rather play Thielen as long as Xavier Legette is out. But Xavier Legette has got to be out. He's currently doubtful, but again, trending towards not probably playing. All right, let's see here. Jordan says, okay, so let's see here. If weather clears, am I flexing JSN? Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. 100%. If the weather clears, JSN is a fantastic play this weekend. Again, all the players in that game would be great. The only issue that currently kind of revolves around that Seattle versus Minnesota game, guys, is the fact that it takes place at 1 p.m. PST on Sunday. So all of the morning slate games are going to have surpassed. So you're not going to really know the weather conditions of that game until probably an hour or 30 minutes before the game takes off. So really, you're just going to have to make a call from the hip as to whether or not you are going to live or die by the weather of that game and whether or not you want to play your players in them, regardless of the situation. So really, it's going to be a tough call for many of us because, again, if you don't have a very similar kind of pivoting option to JSN, like if you don't have like a Shakir to pivot to, it's not as easy from going from JSN to having the trust blindly like Jaden Reed, right? It becomes very difficult in that kind of situation for that pivot. So we'll have to wait and see how it looks on Sunday, but it looks like it's going to be a heavy rain game, unfortunately. Fryermuth or Kincaid? As of right now, I have Kincaid ranked one spot ahead of him. Thank you, Dylan. Ando says, half PPR flex, Connor, Tyreek, or London. Give me Connor there. That's the preferred of the bunch. Alrighty. Class of 97 says Terry, Pollard, Tracy, or Judy in the flex, non-PPR. As long as Pollard is healthy, he would be the starter there. Otherwise, it's Terry McLaurin. Thank you. Chadwick says, with Montgomery going down, do I play Walker, Spears if Pollard is out, Miller, or Bigsby? Okay, so Walker plays this week. In the event in which Pollard is out, I would consider Spears, but I'd still play Walker there. And then, yeah, that would be it. So that would be the top two options. But as of right now, Walker plays blindly. Thank you. Bubba says, hey, Andrew. When would you play Kendre Miller, Alexander Madison, or Tyjae Spears over Patrick Taylor? Lost Montgomery, was able to pick up all of them. Thank you. Okay, so as of right now, the only time, so as it currently stands, I do not prefer to play Kendre or Madison over Patrick Taylor Jr. I would prefer to play Tyjae Spears only if Pollard is out. Otherwise, Patrick Taylor is your starter this week, in my opinion. Thank you. John B in the chat says Nakua, McLaurin, London, Addison, McMillan. It depends. I mean, are we just starting one of those players? John B, what's the question here? How many am I starting there? Thank you. Let's see here. Scrolling back up, Jake Rings in the chat says, should I pick up Pitts or Kraft if Njoku doesn't play? In the event in which Njoku doesn't play, you pick up Kraft and play him. T Squire says, Rico Dowdle or Jawan Jennings in a full PPR? In a full PPR, I'm going Jennings there. If it was a half for standard, I'd go with Rico. But again, Rico has kind of been absent of touchdowns in the last couple weeks here, despite the ridiculous, incredibly high efficiency and level of opportunity, which has been fantastic to see as of late. Let's see here. John B says pick three of them. All right, thank you, John. Let's see what you got here, brother. You have Nakua, auto start. You have, okay, so the way that I go about this is I'm playing Nakua, McLaurin, and London. That's ultimately the way that I go about it. Addison in the weather and McMillan, considering again he is McMillan, I'd rather just go with the alternative three other options. Thank you. Akuma sends in a question, says full PPR. If Pollard is out, pick two Spears, Rico, Brian Robinson Jr. In the event, okay, in a full PPR, if Pollard is out, I'd probably go Rico. You know what? That's a tough one. Spears has to play. So that would be a given. In the event in which Pollard is out, Spears would play. But am I playing Brian Robinson Jr. or Rico ahead of him? Or alongside of him, excuse me. As it currently stands, I'd probably go Rico alongside of Spears. That's the two that I would prefer to play there. LeBron says, hey, Andrew, I try to come here every stream. In a half PPR, pick two to start, Dowdle, BTJ, or Cup. In a half PPR, I'll take Dowdle and BTJ there pretty comfortably. Thank you. Frosty says, hey, Andrew, I stopped in Trader Joe's and grabbed some to drink, and on the way, my friends were planning on drinking. I ended up getting 4 lemon poppy seed muffins. That's not what I was talking about, brother. Listen. Okay, just for the context for everyone who's just listening really quickly. Frosty, what I referred to last time, when you go to Trader Joe's, it's not to buy lemon poppy seed muffins. It's the banana chocolate chip muffins. It comes in a 4-pack. They'll ruin your life, brother. I'm telling you, they will ruin your life. Avoid them at all costs. When I say they ruin your life, they're incredible. They are the best thing that you can buy from Trader Joe's. I promise you. So I don't know about no lemon poppy seed muffins, brother. I don't indulge in those. Thank you. All right, let's see here. Jorge Gonzalez says full PPR Tracy, Abdullah, or Taylor Jr. Yeah, I'd rather have, so as it currently stands, the order in which I would go about that, Jorge, would be Patrick Taylor 1, Tracy Jr. 2, and Abdullah 3. Thank you. Ben Pierce sends in a question, says full PPR flex, Aaron Jones, Cooper Kupp, or Keenan Allen. Of those available 3 options, let me check who I have ranked the highest. As it currently stands, my highest ranked player is Aaron Jones. Considering I expected to be a weather game, I would assume that they would run the ball a little bit more in that contest. Aaron Jones is my preferred of the 3. Also, Rodgers or Kyler. I've got McBride as well. I'm playing Kyler there. Thank you. Daryl says, hey, Andrew, I need to choose 3. Started lad. In a half PPR, Kincaid, Mooney, Pittman, Debo, Etienne, Warren. Of those available, Pittman, Etienne, and probably... Pittman, Etienne, Kincaid is probably the 3 that I roll with as of right now. Corey Miller sends in a question, says, I need one in my other league in a full PPR pick between Debo, Jaden Reed, Addison, Tank Dell, McMillan, Dobbs, Adunze, Pittman, and Coleman. Cool. Of those available in a full PPR, I'm going Pittman 1, Dobbs 2. Actually, no, scratch this. Addison plays if the weather is not a problem. In the event in which the weather is a problem, we'd pivot away from him and we go with Pittman next, then Dobbs, then McMillan, then Reed, then Debo, Dell, Adunze. But again, as of right now, if Addison has no weather problems, he would play. Otherwise, Pittman and Dobbs are the next best options. Thank you. Joseph Mai in the chat says half PPR flex, Jones, Pollard, Jennings, Tracy, JSN. Of those available, Aaron Jones has got to be the play there. Thank you. Especially considering you're in a half PPR. Tracy or Ford, I'd much rather play Tracy in this circumstance. I know that Devin Singletary's contributions over the course of the last, 2 of the last 4 games, stealing a rushing touchdown certainly has hurt. But as of right now, with Drew Lock at quarterback, I think they have a better chance of being a more efficient offense and at least getting Tyrone Tracy the touches he requires in this case. Last time out with Drew Lock, again, in that game, Tyrone Tracy had, 5 receptions on 10 targets, so I would assume that he gets himself a little bit more utilization there. Love the content. Full PPR. Who do I flex? Tyreek Hill or Jonathan Taylor? Let me see who I have ranked higher. In a full PPR flex, as long as Waddle is out, I'll take Tyreek Hill there. If Waddle plays this weekend, I'll just pivot to playing Jonathan Taylor. Jorge Perez says tight end Hawkinson or Kraft. Who should I start? I'd rather have Hawkinson. If the weather's a disaster, you pivot. And you have the ability to pivot considering Kraft plays on Monday, so you'll know what the weather looks like prior to actually making the decision. Appreciate it. Alrighty. So we've been here for about an hour. I think we're going to call it in about 5 minutes. I do appreciate y'all coming through. Again, I'll be back tomorrow night starting at 7 p.m. But again, if you guys want the full expansion of rankings that are on screen, that's usually done on Sunday morning. But just a reminder, as I've said in the last couple of streams, Saturday and Sunday morning, we have morning streams in the early a.m. So Saturday morning, considering there are 2 games on Saturday, Chiefs versus Texans, Ravens versus Steelers, I'll be live streaming as early as 8 a.m. PST for 2 hours on Saturday morning. Sunday morning, it'll start at 7 a.m. as it typically does, where we'll have rankings on screen for all individual positional rankings, okay? Just so we're all on the same page. Otherwise, we're going to answer a couple more questions for the next 5 minutes, then we're heading out. I do appreciate y'all. Thank you very much for all the support. Hope you guys have a great rest of your night. So, a couple more questions here. Dominic says, in a non-PPR, Flex Madison, Laporta, Hunt, or Worthy. Not interested in playing Hunt. Between Madison and Worthy, I think it's definitely a toss-up between the two. Laporta is a little bit sketchier, but he definitely does have touchdown upside. Of the available options, I probably lean towards Madison. Thank you. Kelsey or Strange in a full PPR. I have a hard time not playing Kelsey there. Again, it's Kelsey. I would be... Yeah, I can't not play him. It's Kelsey at this point. Let's see here. Class of 97 says, appreciate it. Thank you very much. Appreciate that. Auntie Slayer says, what's up? Kicker is Zane Gonzalez. Do you rank him higher than Reichard? Okay, yeah. So I don't even know if Zane Gonzalez is playing this week. So I'll have to wait and see what the practice report kind of leans us in the direction of. Let me look at what Washington's practice report looked like today. Zane Gonzalez did not participate Wednesday. He's dealing with a NIR, which is not injury related, personal reason. So if he does not practice the next, specifically tomorrow, then I would assume that they're going to probably elevate and play Greg Joseph again. So probably look to pivot from Will Reichard because of the rain, but additionally also not have Zane Gonzalez because he may not play because he's dealing with a personal issue, which I don't know what exactly that is. Rodney sends in a question in the chat, says standard scoring. I need 3 running backs between Henry, Walker, Charbonnet, Pacheco, Bigsby, and Miller. Cool. Of those available, Henry, Walker, and probably in a standard scoring league, Bigsby are the 3 best. Let's hear Jiggle Billy says, in a half PPR, I have Walker and Charbonnet, debating on who to start at my flex between both of them and Garrett Wilson. Yeah, you got to play Walker. Again, Walker full participation in practice earlier today, while Charbonnet limited, dealing with a little bit of a, over usage in the last couple weeks, as we have seen. But yeah, Walker is going to be back in at a full capacity and should probably carry, I would say, 70+% of the overall workload of this backfield. Thank you. Let's see here. Richo Gaming says, in a half PPR, who should I start? Darnell Mooney, Patrick Taylor, or Brenton Strange. In a half PPR, I'm going with Patrick Taylor there. Gwen says, thank you. If Higgins is out, I need a flex between Jennings, Myers, Judy, and Mooney. Yeah, you play Jennings if, in fact, Higgins was out, but I doubt that to be the case. He has been given the questionable tag, but he didn't practice on Wednesday because it was they gave it the rest designation. Again, it's late in the season. A lot of these veterans require rest, so they just don't let them practice on given days because they're like, hey, you're good. You don't need to practice. You'll show up on Sunday and ball out no matter what. Jay McLaughlin says, thoughts on my standard 2 flex lineup? We have running backs Achane, Brees. Wide receivers are BTJ, McLaurin, Bucky, Higgins. Okay, BTJ, McLaurin, Bucky, Higgins. I think that's a pretty strong roster for a standard scoring format in comparison to the rest of your options here. Says if AJ Brown is out, do I start Devontae Smith? In the event in which that take place, yes, you would, but I doubt that to be the case. But if it was to take place, you'd probably play him over McLaurin there. Thank you. Romeo sends in a question, says in a half PPR, how do you rank these running backs now? Tracy, Kendre, Tyjae Spears, Patrick Taylor, I need 1. Okay, it depends purely on a couple of circumstances. But as of right now, Patrick Taylor 1, Kendre 2, Tracy 3, Spears 4. In the event in which Pollard was to miss this week, Tyjae Spears plays over all of them. Thank you. All right, a couple more questions here. Zane Gonzalez had full practice today. Okay, I'll look into that because I looked at the practice report from their official websites. It didn't have a designation as of yet. Thank you, LJ, though. I'll look into that. Tony Lopez says, how high does Spears rank if Pollard is out? Him over K9? I would play him over K9 in a full PPR. Yes. Okay, cool. Evans or St. Brown, full PPR. I think you kind of, really, there's no wrong decision there. Ultimately, I'd prefer to play Evans, though. Thank you. All right, guys. That's what we're going to call it. I do appreciate y'all coming through, supporting the channel. Again, I'll be back tomorrow with a live stream starting at 7 p.m. once again, PST. Saturday morning, 8 a.m. PST, and of course, Sunday morning, 7 a.m. Okay? If I wasn't able to directly answer your question today, I apologize. Again, there's a lot of you and one of me, but I hopefully was able to answer your question via proxy, or potentially one of our videos over the course of the last couple of days have answered it, or the upcoming live streams can do the job. If you guys want other additional rankings, you can find so either via Underdog Signup using code Andrew, getting the rankings sent to you from my email directly to yours, or of course, checking out the Patreon link down in the description. Thank you all. Of course, have a great rest of your this wonderful Sunday. Happy holidays for many of us, of course, in the next couple of days. Thank you, everybody. And we're going to go ahead and cue the music, and we'll send it off. Have a great rest of your night. And until next time, I'll see you guys. Peace.